So with the other levels, then they are procedurally generated.
Oh, they're all procedurally generated,
Right.
but some of them are using a random seed that's the same every time.
Okay.
So,
Okay. That
and we
makes
tried
sense.
to make our random number generator deterministic so that we could make sure that when the obstacles are generated and when the block, 'cause each different obstacle along the cylinder is in like a block. When you pick a block, that decision is made the same way every time. When you spawn the obstacles and the number of obstacles and the orientation of the obstacles, that's the same every time.
Mhm.
But the cloud's positions, maybe not, because we don't like you never. That doesn't matter.
Right.
But the rest of it, like the obstacles you're interacting with, the level you see, is deterministic, but it's still infinite. So you could theoretically go way further than 19k and still be generating new level that would be the same every time you got there.
Right.
But there is a hard limit based on human reaction time.
Mhm.
Either that or the physics in Unity will give up and you'll fall through the floor. We have not got there yet, but it's gonna happen.
And the trials are the ones that are random every day.
Okay.
So between
Yeah.
you and me, if we load the same trial, we'll have the same trial, but tomorrow will be different for both of us.
Right.
But we'll still have the same.
Yeah.
And there is, like, if we do slight balance changes to some blocks, that might screw the ordering of the blocks. So we've talked about it a bit, and we might in the future release a patch that sort of protects us from that a little bit. But there's still going to be some things where if we change, like we balance an obstacle to spawn less, it might still change the block order. So.
Okay. Well, one thing I was curious about is like what sort of goes. Obviously, you have like the water patches and there's levels that have islands, and there's the lava level, which is the lava level. What sort of goes into making sure that you don't spawn elements that are literally impossible to cross?
Lots of trial and error.
We have a safety block distance, so for most levels, once you spawn a block, you'll then just spawn a safe block, which is just grass.
Right.
So especially on like water blocks, they'll have up to a max length. So you can't go past the bit where 2 jumps and a dash would be too long, and then it will spawn a safety block, which will be water. Which will be grass, so that you can land on it. And we do also have some preventions because there's some crazy blocks. Like at the start, we had a rotator, and we have this GIF of I think Scott playing, and it's horses that run at you, but then when they run on a rotator, they get rotated. So it looks like this horse is coming at him, and it's not going to hit him at all. But there's a rotator between him, and it's just a very small one, but it's very fast. And the horse rotates directly in front of him at the very last minute, and he just gets clipped by it. Yeah. So we're like, maybe we shouldn't have horses behind rotators. Maybe. But we did change them a bit, so you might still get them. But, there are some blocks that's just like, no, you can't. Like, you can't have another water block if it's a long one after a water sort of thing.
That makes sense.
So, yeah.
I thought someone was going to say something. Oh.
No, you're right.
Oh, no, okay. No, that makes sense. Because, like, there's a lot. I play a lot of roguelikes. Like, I play things like Dead Cells, things like that. Hades, great game. And these are games that have done a really good job at making sure their levels are actually achievable. I've played some other games where, actually, Minecraft's a really good example of this, especially with some of the earlier seed generation, where things just didn't make any sense in some cases. Like, that's, especially when you're dealing with something as, like, big as Minecraft, you're gonna have your seed generation completely fall apart in certain places. Like, there are the famous seeds, like, Gargamel, things like that, where you have, like, a giant ravine, way before ravines were even in the game. So I'm sure that you've had... I'm not surprised there have been certainly some issues you've had to specifically design against if you're trying to do something like this.
Definitely. Well, if you join our Discord, or if anyone wants to, and scrolls up far enough in dev updates, you'll see a bunch of basically random generation fails, because that was all the rage for a couple of weeks or maybe even months initially when we were adding a whole bunch more content, because we just couldn't get numbers right, and we wouldn't get the anchors for rotations right, and we ended up with I think at one stage we had hedges that went off into the air, and we had like the little hobs that are on the side of the water for bridges.
Hmm.
Those were just floating, and it looked really cool. But definitely wasn't the theme we were going for, so we had to try and fix them. But yeah, there's lots of examples of us just not getting it right until we got it right, really.
I was gonna say, in our current patch, I think is it current live?
it's
We
live
have an
still.
issue where we completely in one level on the lava levels, the
Snakes.
striking snakes. Yeah, there's just no safety blocks at all. So if you were to play that game, the demo, or not the demo, the full game, if you were to play it on that snake level, there would be just blocks shoved up back to back, and so like it is incredibly tricky to like deal with. But yeah, I mean it snuck through, so it happens.
Yeah,
Stuff
and
like
we've
this
already
still
fixed
happens.
it. We're just gonna deploy later.
Yeah.
Maybe
We've got other
yeah,
issues as well. Like having very small water blocks is a no, but one of our small water blocks is reeds. So that's just we want it small because we want a water behind it. So then you've got like this reeds before the water.
Mhm.
But we needed to add something so that you had to have a water block behind reeds rather than a grass, because otherwise you got this tiny jump and then you just fall a fraction and you get thrown into the dirt and you're like, oh no, what the hell?
Right, that makes sense.